Okay, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our last webinar for 2018. We're joined by Lauren Hallinan, who some of you may remember from a previous webinar with her on influencers attracting Chinese travelers. So if you want to further your learning on China social media and influencer marketing beyond this webinar today, I highly suggest checking it out. If you haven't already done so, I'll make sure to include a link to it in a follow-up email so you can find it. And obviously, we just loved Lauren enough that we had to get her back this year to teach us more. So during the webinar, if you have any questions for Lauren or myself, simply pop them into the chat box. Lauren will be taking questions after the presentation as usual. So, okay, Lauren, thank you so much for joining us again. Let's get started.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for having me back. And yeah, I think I was on about a year ago, and it's crazy how much has changed in the China social media space in just the course of a year. So that's why, we titled the presentation this way, is because there's been a lot of new developments and things to go over. Hold on a second. Why is it not? Sorry, I'm having trouble moving to the next page of the slide. Sorry, trying to troubleshoot here. I'm not sure why it's not
No worries. We can go back to desktop mode if needed to share if your arrow keys aren't doing the job.
Sorry. That skipped down a whole bunch of pages. Sorry, everybody. I'm not sure what's going on right now. Let's see if it'll work again. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'll try and keep going. And sorry for the pause. But so I guess what I was saying before is just that the Chinese landscape is changing so quickly, and there are new platforms coming and going all the time, new policies, new types of content. And so it's really important for brands interested in the China space to remember that they need to be constantly evolving and changing along with the space. You can't keep doing the same thing. It's not going to work. So it's really important to keep that in mind. It's working now. Okay, great. So I want to explain quickly why social media and influencer marketing are so important when it comes to the China travel market. I am going to assume throughout this presentation that you have a basic understanding of the modern Chinese traveler, a little bit of knowledge about the China travel market. So if you don't, just in case you don't, over the past couple of years, Chinese travelers have shifted to become more and more independent travelers. And so obviously that has changed the way that they make their travel plans and how they decide where to travel and what to do. So that's something that's important to keep in mind. Here are some other, stats that I think that you should know about. This slide isn't particularly related just to travel, but Chinese consumption as a whole. So 90% of Chinese consumers buy products based on their reputation. Right. So you can see in this chart that they care about opinion leaders. They care about e-commerce platform recommendations. They care about what other people are saying. They don't tend to trust ads, search engine results. They don't typically trust, reviews on the e-commerce site. They want to hear from real people and real opinions about where they should go, what they should do, what they should buy. So here are some more stats that are specifically related to the travel industry. The 2018 China International Travel Monitor asked Chinese travelers what are their key sources of travel inspiration. So you can see here that 52% said social media, 51% said video sharing. If you look at the blue box on the top right, it says that it makes a really great point that non-millennials are indirectly influenced by social media through their children, with a third of non-millennials saying their children influence their travel decisions and behavior. So, you can take time to look at all these stats yourself, but the key point is that people, personal connections, influencers are the driving force that inspire and influence travel decisions and behavior. So that's why social media and influencer marketing are so important in China. So now let's move on to talking about the actual platforms that travel brands should be considering in 2019. I've kind of divided this into two sections. The first one is talking about some of what I would like to call the classic platforms. So Weibo and WeChat, which probably many of you have heard about these platforms before and have a basic understanding of these platforms. But I'd like to go ahead and point out kind of what has changed over the past year and how you need to be thinking about these platforms differently. And then I have two other platforms that are newer and have grown a lot in 2018. And I'll talk about why travel brands really should be looking at those platforms as well. So the first one is Weibo, which, as I said, you've probably heard of. It's kind of like the bread and butter Chinese social media platform. Lots of brands are on it. Celebrities are on it. It's kind of like a Facebook, Instagram. It's like the go-to Chinese social media platform. It's often compared to Twitter, but I think that it's more similar to Instagram or Facebook because you can create a lot longer content, more content types. It's just got a lot more features than Twitter does. And if you're not familiar with Weibo, it's a really good platform for posting inspirational brand building, brand awareness type content. And as I said, there's a lot of celebrities on there, a lot of influencers, which I also refer to as KOLs, which is called Key Opinion Leader. It's the way that people refer to influencers in Asia. So as I said, being on this platform, especially over the past few years, it's been almost a given. It's like if a brand is on Instagram here in the US, then they're probably going to be on Weibo in China. But things have really been changing over the past few years, and it's not the same platform that it used to be. And a lot of people haven't caught up to that fact yet. Weibo, over the past few years, has become, it's an extremely mature platform. It's become saturated. It's expensive. The organic reach is extremely limited. It's difficult to organically grow a following. So if you're starting from scratch, it's really difficult these days. And it's not necessarily the best platform to reach young Chinese consumers anymore. We're going to talk about two other platforms in a little bit that are attracting a lot of attention. So you might want to consider those platforms instead. And you can see my last point here is that unless your brand, your destination already has a large following on Weibo, you're going to need to work with influencers and pay to promote your content. Otherwise, you're never going to be seen or found. Your growth is going to be so slow. So some of my tips for using Weibo now, if you are going to continue to use Weibo, is that the first one, you need to pay to promote your posts and your account in order to jumpstart organic growth. So this may seem a little bit strange, but it's kind of similar to on, Facebook or on Instagram that you can push your content. You can pay to push your content to people. And it's the same on Weibo. Weibo has become very pay to play. So if you're looking to grow an account, one of the best things that you can do is to pay to promote your account and also to pay to promote specific posts. And you can promote them to current followers. You can target select users to promote them to based on their interests, their demographics. You can also, as you can see in the picture on the right here, you can target users similar to followers of selected accounts. So you could go on and you could find another, say another destination that's very similar to your destination, and you could target their followers. So, if you do this, if you pay to promote your post, the more that your post is seen and the more that people interact with it, then Weibo's algorithm will kick in and they will start to organically promote your posts and promote your account more. So paying kind of gives you that kickstart that will help you organically grow more, if that makes sense. And then the other way is collaborating with KOLs or influencers, because obviously they already have a large audience, and so they can create content and drive traffic to your account as well. Here I give some tips for collaborating with KOLs, and I'd be glad to talk more about that specifically in the Q&A if somebody has questions about that. But essentially, the kind of point that I want to make here with Weibo is, yes, it's still a very important social media platform in China, but you need to realize that if you want to grow an account, if you want to get seen, you either have to pay to promote your own posts or you need to pay influencers to talk about you. Very difficult to do anything for free on Weibo anymore. So I'm going to move on and talk about WeChat. Again, hopefully you're very familiar with WeChat. We talk a lot about WeChat in China. It's an enormous platform, and you can see here by this picture all the different functions and features of WeChat. This app is endless. It's an entire ecosystem. And so by putting this picture here, the point that I wanted to make is that, a lot of people are still thinking about WeChat the way it was a year or two ago, which is that when it had much less features than it does now. And the reason that travel brands would get on WeChat would be to open an official account, which they could publish content similar to a blog, and they could grow a following. And it was essentially just a place to promote and distribute content. You could also have a service account and do customer service that way. But the features were pretty limited for brands. And that's the way it was for a couple of years. But as more and more and more brands and companies and individuals started opening official accounts, what also happened was that the opening rates for articles started to dramatically decline because there's so much competition for reading articles on the platform. So the average read count of articles has dramatically declined. The time that people are spending on WeChat is also declining because there's other new platforms that are coming along. And people aren't following as many new accounts as they used to. It's much harder to grow your WeChat official account now because there's just so many accounts out there, and it's overwhelming for people. It's similar to starting a blog. It's a lot harder to start a blog these days than it was 5-10 years ago, right? So it's a much more saturated place. So instead of thinking just about using WeChat for official accounts, paying attention to your follower numbers and article views, brands, particularly travel brands, need to start thinking about how they can use WeChat to solve consumer pain points. As I mentioned, WeChat has so many other features that they've added over the past couple of years. And now there's a lot more functions that you can use, and it can be used for CRM, for customer service, mobile payments, and lastly, mini programs, which we're going to talk a little bit more about. And so what I have on the right here, I have some stats about what Chinese travelers said that destinations could be doing better. And all 4 of these things that they want could be solved by WeChat. So just think about that. None of these have to do with an official account and creating articles about your site, right? But all of these things could be done through WeChat. So, travel brands need to start thinking about what else they can be doing with WeChat besides just, publishing articles on an official account. So if you are aware of WeChat, then you've probably heard a lot about mini programs over the past year. Mini programs were actually released in 2017, but it took about a year or so for them to really gain momentum and catch on. And 2018 has really been the year of WeChat mini programs. So a WeChat mini program is a light app that exists within WeChat. They're very popular because they're convenient, because users of WeChat can access an app right within WeChat. They don't have to go to the App Store and download it and register for a whole new app and take up all this space on their phone. They can just use an app right in WeChat. And companies and brands like them because they can be developed quickly and at a lower cost than a full-blown app might be. So, when you think about a mini program can do anything that a normal app could. The only difference is that it's within WeChat, so you can connect it to your official account and you can drive the users of your official account to your app a lot more easily than if you had a standalone app. So I have a list on the left side of the page what some travel brands are using mini programs for, right? So for maps and navigation, audio guides, safety updates, concierge, information search, online booking, rewards programs. There's so much. Anything that you could be using an app for, you can create in a mini program. And there's a lot of great case studies out there. I would be glad to share some with you. There's some, they're very tiny, but some links at the bottom of the page to some. There's a lot of travel destinations who are finding great success with all sorts of WeChat mini programs. And even as of like a week or two ago, there's a new hotel, intercontinental hotel in Shanghai that is completely integrated with a WeChat mini program. This hotel, you can, from booking to check-in to controlling the lights and the temperature in your room to getting your breakfast, like everything can be done through this WeChat mini program. So the possibilities are endless. That being said, not everybody needs a WeChat mini program, but I do think that for travel brands, it's a really good idea and something that you should consider because we all know that with Chinese travelers, there's a lot of pain points, like I mentioned before, whether it's language, wanting to book things ahead of time, all of these things that we listed here, having an app that's within WeChat can really solve a lot of those problems very easily for Chinese consumers. And also something to keep in mind is that, we've seen a lot of brands, whether they're travel or other industries, that create separate mini programs for separate problems that they're trying to solve, or for specific campaigns or specific time periods. So, a WeChat mini program, because they are easier to build and have a lower cost, it's easier to maybe try it out for one specific purpose, and then you can always change it or add it later on. It doesn't have to be as big of a deal as a massive do everything standalone app. But again, if you have an app that's working, people are using it, then there may not be a need to have a mini program, right? You don't need to have it just because it's trendy, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And the last thing that I wanted to say about WeChat is that another very popular trend this year has been social commerce. And social commerce is usually games, campaigns, where people are incentivized to share this with their friends in order to receive discounts, coupons, free products, and special offers. And as I mentioned here, many platforms have been trying to incorporate these types of social commerce features, but WeChat is a very good platform for social commerce because people can be in an official account or a mini program, and then they can share whatever this whatever the brand is trying to make you share. You can share it out to your WeChat groups, to your WeChat moments, to specific friends on WeChat. It's very easy to share, whereas other platforms, it may be harder to share with people that you know. So there's also several case studies for this, and I would be glad to go into these more. I'll first just quickly talk about the photo that I have on the right is a local coffee brand, and they created a WeChat mini program where people could go in and they could design these virtual coffee shops. Like they could customize their own virtual coffee shop, like almost like you're playing The Sims or something. And you can do the interior of the coffee shop. And of course, you can choose which drinks you want to have. And so you create this coffee shop, and then it's actually linked to this coffee brand's online site, to the store. And you can share your coffee shop with your friends. And if they buy a coffee from your coffee shop, then they get a discount on their coffee, and you get points that go towards free coffee. And I'm talking about like actual coffee. So my friend could go into my coffee store, say, I want a latte. They buy the latte from my store. Instead of going to the brand's website, they buy it from my store. They get a discount on the latte, and then I get some points. And if I get, say, 10 friends to buy coffees from me, I get a free coffee. Right? So I'm incentivized to create this little cafe and share it with my friends so that I can get free coffee. And my friends are incentivized to buy it from me because then they get a discount on it. So, and this is a really fun example of, obviously it's for coffee, not for travel, but it kind of gives you an idea of what can be done. And this was extremely popular this past year. It was very viral. And then the photo on the left is a more recent campaign. It's Air France. They just did this during the 11/11 shopping holiday. As part of the holiday, they had a game that users could play, kind of like a slot machine. And you press the button, and it would, if you get 3 of the same picture in a row, there were different prizes that you could win. And they added a social commerce twist by saying, if you share this with your friends, then we'll actually boost your chances, your odds of winning by sharing with people. I don't know the exact details, but that's kind of the gist of it. And because of that, they were able to get a lot of people that had never visited the Air France WeChat account before to come to their WeChat account and play their game. They acquired so many new users because they added this social commerce feature in. So again, would be glad to explain more about it, but I think that there's definitely some applications within the travel industry, and it's a very popular trend right now in China. So I'm going to move on to the new platforms to consider, which the 2 that I want to talk about today are Douyin and Xiaohongshu, or Red. So Douyin, I'm assuming that you've probably heard of this year as well. It has been everywhere in the news. And if you're not familiar with Douyin, then you've been probably familiar with their international counterpart, which is TikTok. TikTok has been in the news a lot lately because it's growing really well in the US and international markets. So Douyin is essentially the Chinese version of TikTok, and it came first, so it's much more mature and advanced. It has a lot more features and a lot more users than TikTok does. So it's a short video app. As you can see here from these two pictures, short vertical videos that are typically around 15 seconds long. If your account is large enough, you have enough followers that you can do videos up to a minute long. And it's very, very popular among young Chinese consumers, particularly those that they say here, born in the post 95s. So, people that are in their early 20s love, love, love this app. And as I share here, it started more of like a lip syncing karaoke, cute video type app. And over the past year, the type of content has really diversified. And now there is a lot of travel related content. Here are two examples on the right. The videos still tend to be very, they have music playing in the background. They don't tend to include a lot of details about the travel. They're definitely more inspirational type videos. Something similar you'd see to like a short travel video on YouTube with lots of scenery and maybe some drone footage. And as you can see in the right, the girl is like dancing at Universal Studios. So they still tend to be very light content, very inspirational content. So how travel brands can use Douyin? A couple of different ways. You can open your own brand account where you can create your own videos and post your own videos. And here I have some tips about doing that. That only works if you're willing to put in the effort to make really good videos, and B, you need to be posting frequently in order to really grow your audience. And by frequently, there's some accounts that are posting daily, and at a minimum, a couple times a week. And these videos, even though they look maybe like a Instagram story type format, these are actually like produced videos. It's not like Instagram stories where you can just snap something and put it up there. These are, if you take some time to play around with the app, you'll discover that even though they're only 15 seconds long, sometimes these videos are extremely well produced for only 15 seconds. So that's just something to keep in mind. The other way that you can use Douyin is to collaborate with KOLs, with influencers. Obviously, they are experts at creating content that is popular on Douyin, so that'll give you a leg up. One warning, though, is that because the platform has become very popular, the influencers are also quite expensive to work with these days. And Douyin has an official, they have a lot of rules about working with influencers now. So you just need to make sure that you're going through the right channels and doing things properly. And the last way that you can use Douyin is to create a challenge. So a challenge is essentially a hashtag prompt that users create videos around. So it's encouraging user-generated content. So for example, you would create this hashtag theme, and as you can see in the picture here, the picture on the left is C-Trip, which is a very large Chinese online travel agency. They created a hashtag challenge, and then underneath it, there's an explanation of what the requirements are for the challenge and kind of the inspiration for it. And then they also are giving away a prize that will obviously get more people to get involved in it. And then typically the brand who's running the challenge will work with several influencers to kind of kick off the challenge and get it going. So the influencers will post something using the challenge hashtag, and then hopefully that will kind of kickstart the momentum for thousands and thousands of regular users to start creating their own videos using this hashtag challenge. So it's a really great way to drive user-generated content and get people really involved with your brand. And you can see on the right, this was a recent one that C-Trip did not too long ago. I think it was during the Golden Week holiday in early October of this year. And you can see, you can also work with Douyin to get special filters and frames made up for your brand. So you can see in the picture on the right that this influencer was using the C-Trip filter, and then they had a specific song that C-Trip had chosen that you had to use along with your video. So if you are going to do a challenge, if you're going to do an official challenge, that's also a little bit expensive. Of course, anyone can create a challenge on the platform. So anyone can just create a hashtag and try and get other users to start using this hashtag. And if it gets popular enough, it will end up on the hashtag challenge page. So, if you're a smaller destination, you don't have money to be working with Douyin to have an official hashtag challenge and a filter and have it all be promoted, you can start your own challenge and maybe work with some influencers to kind of get the virality going on your own. So that's something to consider. But I really strongly suggest, as a travel brand, you have so much content, what your destination, there's so much that you can be talking about and creating videos about, that Douyin is a really great platform for you. In comparison with other brands, other brands don't have as much that they can be featuring, as much that they can be talking about. Travel is so easy not easy, but there's just so much there that you can be making videos about that it's just a really great platform for travel brands. And again, it's a great way to reach younger audiences and get them inspired to visit your destination. So that's all I'm going to say about Douyin, but again, I would be glad to answer more questions about that. And then there is Xiao Hong Xiu, or Red. And I'm going to skim through this as well. Again, would be glad to answer more questions, but Xiao Hong Xiu is a social e-commerce app. As I have written here, it's a sharing platform for people's lifestyle. And it's designed to help people discover and purchase products and share recommendations. So essentially, Xiao Hong Xiu is like a mix of Instagram and Pinterest, right? So you can look at the picture here and you can kind of like Instagram, Pinterest, and a blog. And people go on Xiao Hong Xiu to share their recommendations about what products to buy, where to travel to, how to take care of your skin, just anything that they want to share about, anything that you might maybe post on a blog, post about on Instagram, all these things you would go on here for. But Xiao Hong Xiu is just all about sharing recommendations with each other. And so actually, let me move on to the next page, and let's just talk about the user behavior of Xiao Hong Xiu, because this is it's a little bit hard sometimes for people to wrap their head around what makes Xiao Hong Xiu different than say Weibo or WeChat, right? So some users go onto Xiao Hong Xiu to browse, right? They go onto this platform and they will scroll through the homepage feed. They'll go into different tabs. Maybe they'll hit the search bar and they'll search around for some words or look at some hot topics. They're just browsing, and while they're doing this, they might discover new products, new places, get some tips on how to do something, right? They're just kind of casually playing around on the platform. But what's interesting about Xiao Hong Xiu is that the home page is recommended content. It has an algorithm that will recommend content to you based on the type of content that you look at. So for example, if I use Xiao Hong Xiu and I start looking up Paris. Let's just say Paris. If I start looking at posts related to Paris, then Xiaohongshu will start sending me more posts related to traveling in Paris. So it's a great discovery platform, because there's a lot of platforms that will only show you content related to the accounts that you follow, whereas Xiao Hong Xiu gives you new content based on who you follow and what type of content you tend to look at. Again, I'm just there's a lot to cover today, so hopefully I'm explaining this clearly. If not, feel free to ask more questions. And then the other type of user behavior on Xiaohongshu is that there are some people who go on the platform to research a specific product, brand, or topic. So, for example, I know that I have a holiday coming up and I definitely want to go to Paris. I'll go into the search bar and I'll start searching in Paris, searching for Paris hotels, Paris activities, and I start looking for specific posts. And these posts are very long. They're very similar to what you would see on a blog. They can include up to 9 pictures. They can include a video, and they're very long, in-depth reviews and sharing. So it's very useful if you're wanting to learn about a place or a product, to go searching on Xiaohongshu. And then there's a lot of users who also create their own content on Xiaohongshu. They create their own posts, or they comment on other posts. They can also collect posts, which is kind of like saving it to your Pinterest board, or saving a post within Instagram. And what's really interesting about users of Xiaohongshu is that they tend to write comments that are much longer and more detailed and heartfelt than you might find on other platforms. They share their experiences with the product and destination, or they ask more questions about it. People just really engage with each other on the platform, and they're seeking. It's not fluffy entertainment type content. It's really people want to learn something when they go on Xiaohongshu. So why I think travel brands should consider Xiaohongshu. The platform was originally known for cosmetics, skincare, and fashion. And so a lot of people still have this view that that's what it's used for. But really, people are using it for all sorts of categories these days. And travel is actually one of the most popular, especially up and coming categories on Xiaohongshu. There's a tab for travel content right on the homepage. And the interesting thing, and one of the reasons why travel content does so well in Xiaohongshu, is because the platform originally started as a place for Chinese travelers to share where to find products abroad. So that's actually what it started as. It started as almost like a travel guide where people were giving tips like, hey, if you're in New York City, you should go to this store and buy this product, or, don't go to this store. It was almost this type of platform in the beginning, and then it evolved. But a lot of the users of the platform are still very well traveled. Maybe they've lived abroad. They are currently living abroad. They like travel. So it definitely has this almost more cosmopolitan vibe to it. And there's a lot of people on the platform who are really interested in travel. And you can see on the right, I've highlighted here, I was on the platform only a couple of days ago, and in the trending search bar, there's 4 out of these topics are related to travel. So, nowadays, if you're going into the trending search section, there's always travel related terms in there. So it's definitely a popular topic on the platform these days. Travel brands can use Xiaohongshu mainly 2 different ways. So one is to create a brand official account, and if they have a brand official account, you can write your own posts on there, and you can also share posts from other users who tag your official account. So if a regular user writes a post about your destination and tags you, you can share that to like a board, almost similar to a Pinterest board. And it's just a great way if people are talking about your destination on Xiaohongshu. If you have an official account, then you can go on and be responding and answering their questions about your destination. If you don't have an official account, then there's no way to answer those questions. And then the other way, which is really essential, is that you need to work with influencers if you're going to be on Xiaohongshu, because you need to grow the amount of content on Xiaohongshu related to your destination. So as I mentioned here in this last point, the more content there is about your destination or product on Xiaohongshu, the more desirable it will seem. If a consumer goes on Xiaohongshu to research your destination and sees little to no user-generated content about it, they will start to worry that it's not a good place to visit. So it's not enough to have your own brand official account on Xiaohongshu and be sharing content about your destination. You must have user-generated content about your destination. Otherwise, people it's gonna turn them off. They're gonna be like, oh no, nobody on Xiaohongshu is writing about this place. Like maybe it's not a good place to go, or maybe it's not worth checking out. So it's definitely important to work with whether it's a number of micro influencers, some medium size. You want a mix of different sizes of influencers, but it's definitely crucial to work with influencers on Xiaohongshu. So I know that was a lot. I know I sped through that super, super quickly. But I guess the key things that I want to say is, to wrap everything up, is that Weibo is still very relevant, but you need to recognize that it's expensive. WeChat, you need to stop focusing on official accounts, and you need to start thinking about, whether it's WeChat Pay, whether it's creating a mini program, whether it's CRM and customer service. You need to think about the other ways that you can use WeChat's features to help travelers with their pain points. And then you really need to be looking at Douyin and Xiaohongshu for growing awareness and providing information, especially to young travelers, about your brand and your destination. So as I said, I'd be glad to answer more questions about any of those topics.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Lauren. Let's move on to questions now, as Lauren said. So if you have a question, you can either type it into the chat box, or you can ask using your mic if you prefer. So to do that, just please raise your hand. You can find that button by clicking on participants below and then selecting raise hand on the right. I'll then unmute you and you can ask your questions. So David has asked, he's left, unfortunately. He had to run, but he said that, Lauren, this was great. He has asked if we can give a copy out of the presentation.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Okay, so I'll get that off, Lauren, and share with all of you in the email thread for this webinar, along with the link to this recorded video if you want to share it with people you think might be interested, or of course if you missed the beginning. I noticed some of you joined a little later, and of course I'll also throw in the link there to Lauren's first webinar we had with her if you want a little bit more knowledge on the things we talked about today, as well as I believe there was a lot more information about WeChat initially in that first one as well. So Ian, in case anyone's not totally sure, Ian is the founder of Travel Massive, and he says, thanks for this great presentation, really interesting, and lots of products I haven't heard of before, fantastic insights. So he also says, I shared the webinar with our Shanghai and Beijing WeChat groups, 600 plus members. If you want an invite to the groups, if anybody wants an invite to the WeChat groups, please add Ian Travels. And Lauren, you've just been added as well. So another question is, are there any trust issues around Xiao Hong Shi?
Yes, I mean, any platform is going to have trust issues, especially, Xiao Hong Xiu has nearly doubled in size in the past year, more than doubled in size in the past year. They have just grown like crazy. And so obviously, the more you grow, it's like a band when they're small and then they get big and people feel like they're selling out. You know what I mean? So people do start to worry like, hey, everyone's getting on Xiao Hong Xiu now. Is it still as trustworthy? And I would say, in general, it's still very high quality content. The platform is being very strict with what people can post. If they think that you have written a sponsored post and you have not marked it as sponsored or gone through the platform, taken the correct measures as an influencer, they will actually take down your content and send you a message and say, you either need to fix this or we're just going to block the post. And also influencers on the platform, only 20% of their content that they put out is allowed to be sponsored. If they put out more than 20% sponsored content, they could actually they'll get warnings and eventually they could get shut down. So Xiao Hong Xiu is trying to do a lot to control how commercial the content gets and ensure, if you think about that, if that's 20%, that means that you have to write 4 unsponsored posts, like genuine recommendations, no monetary affiliation for every sponsored post. So I think they're doing a lot to try and keep it the way it is. And hopefully, even though they're growing a lot, they'll continue to do that.
Great, thank you. That's actually really interesting to know. I kind of wish, these Western social media sites were doing as much to keep everything a little bit more relevant. But Ian also asked, is there data of the reach of these networks outside of China? So, with Chinese-speaking communities or expats?
I would have to look. I'm not sure if you're talking about all the platforms or specifically Xiao Hong Xiu. For Xiao Hong Xiu, they haven't released a lot of data about where their users are located. But if you play around on the app, you can see from a lot of the people who are posting that there are quite a lot of people who are currently living abroad who use the app as well. Just I know from my personal experience, I can see that a lot of people are living abroad. For the other platforms, for Douyin, I don't think most of these platforms haven't specifically narrowed down the content, narrowed down the user bases and released that type of information. They just kind of release general information. So it's mostly that you have to kind of play around with the app and kind of get a feel for it, unfortunately.
Okay, and another question that's come through is from a brand perspective, are the reviews and posts considered authentic, given a paid partnership with a KOL would be a way in?
Are you talking? Does the question say whether it's specifically about Xiao Hong Xiu or just working with influencers in general?
It doesn't say. I'm going to assume influencers in general, but they did ask before about Xiao Hong Xiu specifically. So maybe if we go into a little bit of both.
Yeah, I think that Chinese consumers over the past couple of years have gotten a lot savvier when it comes to influencer marketing, and they're very aware of influencer marketing and that people are getting paid to write about products and destinations. So, that's definitely changed a lot over the, maybe a couple of years ago. A lot of people didn't realize that. Now they definitely do. And I would say that, especially the younger the consumers are, maybe the more wary they are about it. But the thing is even if something is sponsored, but they feel like the content is written in such an authentic way, and it's very clear that the influencer really means what they're saying, about the content, about the, the product, or place or whatever it is, they will want that recommendation. They won't care that it's sponsored. So it's really, I know that authenticity is such a cliche word these days, but if the content is genuine, it's authentic, they can really see that the person has used this product, has visited this destination, that they really enjoy it and love it, then it doesn't matter whether it's paid or not. They will still, trust it. So that's why it's really important, just if you're working with influencers, to do a lot of research ahead of time, and have somebody who reads Chinese to really take a look at their posts, take a look at the comments, and see what people are saying, and see what kind of reaction they're getting.
Okay, they have specifically come back that it was Xiao Hong Shi that they were asking about. However, I think you've probably answered the question there anyway. So I'll move on to the next. Yes, he says. So Anne has asked a very practical question, but I would assume you need a company registered in mainland China to easily open accounts on all of these platforms.
Not necessarily. So, WeChat has changed the rules this year, finally. As a foreign company, you no longer need to work with a Chinese company in order to open an official account. Sorry, I should have actually put that in there. That's a big change that's happened this year. So now you can, unfortunately, I think if you're registering with an international company, ID and everything, you have slightly less features than if you're a Chinese company, but it is possible now. Douyin, I would have to check on that. I'm not sure about that as far as opening a brand account. And then with Xiao Hong Xiu, no, you don't. Xiao Hong Xiu is very friendly to companies that aren't registered in China. You can, Xiao Hong Xiu is actually, besides for the content, it's also a cross-border e-commerce platform, and so they work with a lot of brands who don't have an official registration in China, can also sell their products in China. So you don't need to be registered to have an official account now. And Weibo, you don't need to either. I think the fee to verify your account is higher if you're a foreign company than if you're a Chinese company, but you can do it as a foreign company, no problem.
Okay, thanks so much. It looks like all the questions that we have at the moment. Of course, if you think of anything later that you'd like to ask, you can always email lauren@unchartedmedia.co, or you can email me at kirsty@travelmassive.com as well. So thanks so much for joining, everyone. I hope you all have a very happy holiday. And of course, don't forget to sign up for our upcoming webinars for 2019. Thanks, everybody. Bye.